Hi, welcome to another episode of Ask the Expert. My name is Freek Brinkhuis and today we're going to talk about the Accelerator program. The Accelerator program is a TimeSeries initiative we started this year where we created a set of ready-to-use components that you can use in any Mendix application or outside the Mendix application. So we received 9 questions this time that we're going to discuss, and we're going to give you as much detailed answer as possible. And if you have any questions regarding the answers or you have additional questions, just let us know and we will make sure we'll get in touch with you. Our first question is, what are the Mendix Accelerators? So in the previous years of developing custom Mendix applications at our customers, we saw requests coming in that were actually almost quite identical to previous projects that we did. So what we thought about is, what components are used the most often within customer projects, and isn't there any way of making these as easy to reuse as possible so that we can sell them as components ready to implement in your Mendix application without the need of going through a whole development cycle of creating that implementation. Those accelerators can differ from being Mendix components like widgets or modules to even hardware integrations like RFID scanners that you could use on your shop floor. And then with that, in direct integration in, for instance, your Mendix app. And the idea behind this is that we develop them as products. We're not developing them as a custom implementation in your project, so you don't really have the development time of creating the implementation. The only thing you need to do is make sure you get one of those accelerators implemented in your project, either by TimeSeries or your own development team, and then it's ready to use directly. So the next question is, why should I choose a Mendix accelerator over custom development? So as mentioned already, the big difference between using a Mendix accelerator that we developed compared to a custom implementation is that it will save you a lot of development time. The whole idea behind these accelerators is that the components are already developed by us and they are actively maintained by us. And the only thing you need to do is add it to your Mendix project, implement it, make the necessary customizations that you want, and then after that it's directly ready to use. So you don't need a sprint or a couple of weeks to develop that specific integration for, let's say, WhatsApp, or the development time for creating a custom widget to show a schedule of your rosters. Instead of that, you can just download or copy the accelerator that we developed for that, integrate it in your project, and 99% of everything that you need is already there. So another point is that whenever you develop that custom implementation in your Mendix app, be it a widget or a Java action or maybe even a whole integration to a different server, it actually costs you development time, but it also costs you quite some maintenance time. So whenever, let's say, an integration changes from an endpoint, let's say WhatsApp, you need to integrate an entire new sprint to make sure that the application you build, the integration that you made, is actually custom tailored to the new functionality that they provide. Or let's say we're talking about a widget that contains a very nice visualization of, for instance, your floor plan, and you're thinking about new functionality that was just made available on the market. It will require you to do another development cycle to implement that feature. The idea behind the accelerators is that we take away that pain from the business and we develop it in-house. So we will always make sure that we implement those continuous improvement cycles where we check for the latest market trends, we'll check the latest features that are made available within either the platform or within the libraries that we use, and we implement them directly, and with that make them available to you directly. So it's only a matter of updating your Mendix Accelerator in your project, make, if necessary, the necessary changes, and then you're ready to go without the need of doing a whole extra development cycle. So another question is, what does an accelerator cost? It's not always for free, of course, but we do have a couple of free accelerators, and those accelerators are, for instance, our QR code scanner that can be used in a web browser. So with most projects you'll see that there is quite a mismatch that you can only use a barcode scanner for, let's say, a mobile phone application, but actually you don't want the mobile phone application, you want the web version to also be able to scan a widget, for instance, from a browser on your iPhone or from your tablet. So that QR code scanner, already developed by us, will be made available in the Mendix App Store. So as seen as a component, we will always actively maintain it. So we'll check for either new features or new functionality that we can extend it with and upload that to the App Store as well, so that you always have like the latest and greatest. We also have the paid accelerators. Those paid accelerators start with a monthly fee of $100 US. And with those paid accelerators, you can think about, for instance, a RFID scanner integration. So let's say you have a specific RFID scanner at your shop floor. The chances are big we already created the integration for that device with our RFID accelerator. So by using that accelerator for the RFID scanner, you can just integrate it in your app, hook it up to all the connections that you need, and then it's ready to use. Of course, there are multiple other accelerators that we have. Of course, we will highlight a couple of them in a moment, but if you want a full overview, you can also check our website, of course. But why is there a monthly fee? Well, you should think about most of these accelerators as components that would otherwise have been developed in a pretty long development cycle. Those are not like the simple widgets that will check a QR code or will show you a PDF file within your Mendix applications. Now, those paid accelerators are usually pretty big components that require a lot of R&D time and development cycles to actually be made available. So usually this might take a couple of sprints, and you can do the necessary calculations to come up to a certain figure, of course, of what it would cost. But instead of charging the development time, we did that in-house and we make it available through that monthly fee. So we still are able to maintain everything. We make sure that it's always up to the latest standards, always bug-free, and then the only thing you need to do is download the accelerator, and we only charge a monthly fee. So what accelerators are actually talking about? So we already discussed a couple of them. We talked about QR code scanner, a PDF viewer, RFID integration. But actually we also have another couple of accelerators that are quite interesting. So one of them is the passport ID scanner. So what actually happens with a lot of businesses lately is they need to automate the process of verifying someone's identity when, for instance, they're onboarded in their company, or they have a certain process that requires identity checks whenever there are any legal documents, for instance, to be signed. So we developed a passport and ID scanner module that you can directly integrate in your project, and that will enable you to take a picture of, for instance, a passport or an ID card and directly validate if that's a valid passport, and also get the information about the passport holder that you can, in that case, process within your own application process. Another one is the one-click Mendix deploy. So usually when you develop a Mendix application and you deploy it via any cloud provider, it's always a matter of a couple of clicks to make sure that you create a package, for instance, a deployment package, that you upload it to your required environment, and then you have to press the restart button and maybe even do some manipulation to your database. And the one-click deploy for Mendix Accelerator that we build actually is just a matter of, as it says, one click and your application is deployed. So I already talked about the RFID handheld scanner, but that's not the only RFID accelerator that we developed. We also developed our stationary RFID scanner component, and that component can actually hook up to your stationary RFID scanner in your warehouse that might be attached to a conveyor belt, and that will automatically scan RFID tags of boxes or products that pass by. Now, that's a very awesome hardware integration that we can hook up either in a Mendix app or to any other IT system, so that you always have an automated process of scanning your RFID tags that go along your conveyor belt. So you also have the offline interactive maps accelerator. So the offline interactive maps accelerator is a widget that you can integrate in your Mendix application, and it will allow you to upload any floor plan of any product you can think of. So it could be a factory floor, it could be a ship's deck, but it could also be just a visual representation of any location in the world. And the awesome part of this is that we created a widget that allows you to use that PDF file as an interactive map where you can place markers, and it actually even works offline. So it allows for a lot of business processes to be enabled with those specific maps. The last one I want to discuss is the WhatsApp integration. So a lot of businesses these days have WhatsApp for Business installed so that they can directly communicate with their customers over WhatsApp instead of going through phone calls or email processes. Now, the WhatsApp integration accelerator that we developed actually allows you to hook into your Mendix application or your Mendix database and utilize that to, for instance, create automated answers based on the questions that your users ask via WhatsApp. Now, all those accelerators are currently in either the App Store or will be made available in the Mendix marketplace, which we will discuss a bit later. And is it possible to develop an accelerator if it's not available yet by you guys? So this is actually a question that we already got a couple of times, that we do, as a customer, want to develop a specific integration, but we don't want to cover all the development time and all the development costs related with it. So that's actually a really relevant question. because in this case we are very glad to help with that, of course, because that means we can develop it as an accelerator, and depending on what you want to develop, of course, it depends on a monthly fee, and that's actually everything you have to pay for that specific accelerator. And what happens if I want to use an accelerator when I actually have to upgrade to a new version of Mendix or do any other upgrade necessary? So the whole idea behind the accelerators is that the modules itself are always actively maintained by our own developers. So it's not a matter of you requesting a new feature and we have to build it. We always try to make sure that it's up to the latest standards, includes the latest features, and in this case, for instance, also works with all the supported Mendix versions that are actually used in this case. So whenever there's a new Mendix version and it requires some changes, we already want to be ahead of the game and make sure that it actually works before you have to ask us the question, hey, I'm upgrading, do I have to make any changes? And also, is it possible to use accelerators outside of Mendix? So we talked about our RFID integrations with either the handheld scanner or the fixed RFID scanner on the conveyor belt. Those specific components can actually also be used outside of Mendix, and then it's just a matter of checking up your own ID system that you want to integrate it with, and then you're ready to go. And that's definitely also something that we can help you with during implementation of that specific module. Last but not least, and that's probably the most important question, when will the accelerators be made available? So our free accelerators are actually already available in the Mendix App Store. So whenever you go to the Mendix App Store within your modeler or from the browser, you should already be able to look them up and install the free versions. Now the paid versions will be made available in the Mendix Marketplace, and the Mendix Marketplace is due to be released in April of next year. And whenever that happens, then we make sure that directly all our other paid accelerators are of course also made available. So you can't wait for the Mendix Marketplace to be released, then of course we can still help you with those accelerators as well. So just get in touch with us via our email address info@timeseries.com, and we'll make sure that we can fix you up with the paid accelerators as well. So do you want to know what accelerators we all have to offer? Then you can check our website timeseries.com and go to the accelerator page, or click on the link below in our YouTube video, and then you'll be redirected directly to our overview with all the accelerators that will be either free or be made available in the Mendix Marketplace.